I mean, there's always two parties in a negotiation, and in the case of the EU, of course, even more. It's difficult to get to yes, which is why I don't think you're going to get done by the end of this year. I find it fascinating that the UK wants to talk about an Australia deal, given that there is no Australia deal. No. The EU and Australia haven't finished yet. They've been negotiating for much longer than the UK intends to negotiate, and they still haven't resolved their issues.
Right. Dan has a question for you.
Hey, Deborah, just to unpack that a little bit more, what is this Canada-style deal that everyone's been talking about? What elements from that Canada deal could the UK actually take away and negotiate with the EU?
I think it's a little hard since they're lumping Canada and Australia together and we don't even have an Australia deal. But I think with Canada, what they're talking about is an agreement that covers goods, services, investment, that deals with some digital issues, that talks a little bit about standards, that is closer in alignment with the EU than some other FTAs are. It's one of the recent ones that the EU has done, so I think that's why it's viewed as a model or a template. But it's definitely not as close as the UK has had, or the relationship is not as close as the UK has had with the EU.
It's unlikely to go ahead, though, right? Because we've already heard from the likes of Dominic Raab, who has said that if they did have a closer alignment with the EU, that would basically defeat the purpose of Brexit.
Therein lies the real challenge, and particularly on behalf of companies, the more divergence you get, especially regulatory divergence between the UK and the EU, the harder it is for firms, actually, unless they are content to stay fairly small, domestic, UK-based businesses. The more you diverge, the harder it is for firms to operate in both the UK and in the almost half a billion people market in the EU.